room. Welcome, welcome. As we file in different people, we will welcome everybody as they're coming in. We had about 80 people registered for this, so I'm super excited. Hopefully we can get through everything. And I think I have like, I don't even know how many slides I have in this presentation, but we will try to get through most of them. Oh, 93, there you go. So a lot of them are explanatory slides and stuff like that. So just hang tight. We'll probably answer a lot of questions along the way. So excited that everybody's here. Liz, Michael, Dave, Al, Rahel, Jeff, yes, Kay Togue, don't know, but you're here. Marquise, Scott, Ravindra, so amazing. Obaid, Dave, Haranath. I'm so excited for everybody to be here. So many wonderful founders here. Excited to help you along your journey. So I think that we have almost everybody in, right, Stephen? Or should we wait like one more minute? Oh, thank you, Benton.
Yeah, I think we got a couple more people coming in, but I think you're good to go.
Okay, cool. Cool beans. Thanks, Benton, letting me know that it's 1.54 slides per minute. Whew, I need to go fast. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll be your timer.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that. Yeah, 1 minute, please. I know that finger really well. It's like 1 minute. Got it. So I just wanted to start off I'm going to stop sharing just for 1 second and go back to this. Wonderful there. I'm like, I was ready to go. So welcome everybody. This is the Investor Relations workshop from the Brink SBDC. I am blessed to be an advisor here at the Brink SBDC under the wonderful leadership of Amy Duncan. And we want to really be the resource and opportunity giver for founders out there in the community. And one of the reasons why we do it really well is because we have like different types of things that we do for founders. And this is one of them. I just wanted to promote this. We have the 10-minute pitches coming up tomorrow with these wonderful semi-finalists that are going to go on to pitch at Innovation Day in a couple of weeks. So these wonderful founders did an amazing job in their 3-minute. I was there, wonderful job. Now they get 10 minutes to wow the judges. The judges have been handpicked by our group at the Brink SBDC to really be the ones that can give some good critical question and answer to clarify, to make sure that we understand the product and the market and the business model. So that is a QR code. Please register for tomorrow. You'll learn a lot by hearing other people's pitches. So anyways, enjoy. And I'm going to stop share really quick and let me make sure that I got this. Okay. And I'm going to reshare because it never works whenever I try to like transition over to another tab. So sorry about that, going back and forth, but I will share this. I have given this investor presentation a couple of times. Again, it's 93 slides, but really walking you through what it means to be in the shoes of an investor and seeing what are the tactics that you need, that you can do with investors so that you can get to yes faster, right? You're not going to get a yes automatically. So we're going to kind of dispel that a little bit, is how do we get faster to yes or faster to actually a no? Because a no means, oh, it's not part of my thesis, but oh, I can introduce you to somebody else. So it's a no, but, or a yes and, right? And so that's something that I really want to talk about throughout the whole time that we're together. And then some strategies about what it means to be in the shoes of an investor. And the more that you kind of sit there, you understand what drives them to invest. So that's a little bit about what that is. So really the learning objectives is to really get into the investor's mindset. I want to create an investor persona just really quick. We won't spend a lot of time on that. And then go back down to like, what does a coffee meeting look like? What are investor communications look like? And then the data room, because I know that's something that Amy wanted me to go into, and we'll quickly get through that at the very end. I encourage everybody to, if you do have a question, put it in the chat so that I can see maybe 2 or 3 questions that come up, and we might be able to answer them in a collaboration piece. So Well, the mindsets matters is what's getting into the investors' heads is that you want to understand the ethos of angel investors. The trust is the most valuable currency. So if you're an early stage founder, I know it's cliche, but they will invest because of you, right? First, at the very earliest stages. So getting to know them, building trust with them, showing it at pitch competitions, knowing what kind of thesis that they have, what are the panels that they are on, so that you understand what drives them. Are they an impact investor? Are they gender lens? What is it that they are driven towards? And I get a lot of questions of how do you know an individual angel's thesis? That is a little harder to come by, but again, LinkedIn is like the best source possible. If they're writing about something, their posts are going to be either very transactional or very relational, so you can get a little bit of a flavor of what they like and what they don't like. Some investors that are individuals showcase, this is my portfolio company, or I highlight this one portfolio company that made it to blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh, they like fintech, or they like this, or what are they talking about in the highlights? So know that it's a little bit of detective work. Typically they're servant leaders, right? They want to return, obviously. All of us want to return if we're doing this, but if they are accredited investors, that means that they have enough net worth to be able to carve out a tiny bit of the riskiest part of, let's say, a business and a riskiest asset class to give you some money. So think about it that way, that they're okay. They're not going to like not be able to pay their rent. They have this extra money that they are really saying, I'm going to go into the most riskiest asset class and get some return at the end. So they love to mentor, they love to advise, and all of those things. So just an awareness of who they are in general. An angel investor is a definition is that they have financial resources to help fund startups or business expansions. So with that, wanted to give you some data also on angel investing is that 87% are white. Then it's next big pie is Asians 5.7 over here. This is data from the Angel Capital Association. The gender is 78% male, 22% female. So very interesting. And then this is the age ranges. So you understand now, even in just a little bit in the next first couple of minutes, that who are the people that you're talking to. So when you do pitch, when you do have relationships with them, you do connect with them on LinkedIn, you know who they are and how they think. So with that, okay, I wanted to go through this too, is that this is a table that just lets you know that an angel investor can actually have different roles. They can have a source of capital, obviously, they invest their own capital and nothing else, all the way to being a board member for you. And you'll see the bottom slate is from zero effort to a lot of effort. And some angel investors come in and invest $10,000 in you, and they're going to take the role of mentor and advisor. They work ad hoc with the founding team, they support them and all of that. But equally as well, as somebody might come in for $10,000 investment, but they're really good in PR and marketing. Your role as a founder is to say, okay, based on my advisors and my investors and my cap table, and of course my team, what are the holes that I need to plug to bring that investor in? Therefore, you're really building great relationships with them, saying, I really need this support. Oh, and by the way, you'll come in as an investor as well. Wonderful. That's a win-win, right? To help the team, help you in these really early stages. I'm not talking about Series A. I'm talking about pre-seed, seed, and seed plus. That area that you really need support from investors, industry experts, and your team. So VC is that next level, a professional whose role is to invest in a new or growing business, has a realistic potential for high profits. You have to think about a VC as typically a GP, which is the general partner that has a fiduciary responsibility for their LPs. They do have a thesis that they sell to their investors. So if you don't fit into their investment thesis, they're not going to invest in you, not because they don't like you or all the personal stuff that an angel investor would. They're doing it based on their executables to their limited partners, that's LPs. So just know that, ask them what their investment thesis is. Typically VCs, you can find their investment thesis online. So I'll kind of skip through this because a lot of you probably know how to raise capital and stuff like that, lean on your investors, all of that, and we can share this afterwards. Raising capital, I want to focus on preparing, right? So sometimes people are like, oh, I just need money, and an investor is going to love what I do. Be prepared to have that really great pitch deck, that data room, all the things that you would need to have really great relationships with that investor, so the friction is not there. Because really, you're trying to de-risk that investor to say, yes, I'm going to invest in you. So by de-risking, you can do that by preparing your materials, preparing what you have to put in front of it. And I would say the last thing I want to say before I go on is that it doesn't matter where you are. If you're a seed, you're a solid seed. Like, no problem. I have these milestones. This is what I've been able to accomplish, and sit in that seed, right? Don't think that you need to be a Series A company. You're seed, you have your prototype, you have your business model, and you're prepared for this snapshot of your company. And there's going to be investors that want to invest in this type of business, okay? So that's, again, that view of the mindset of an investor. Next up, we've gone through this. I did not define pre-seed and seed, so I'll just stop right here too. Pre-seed is typically the first infusion of capital, typically after friends and family. Seed is that next round of financing, and you're really talking to angel investors or early stage VCs. So one of the things that I like to do, and let's see what time it is. Okay, we'll take about 2-minute break to actually do this, because it's really nice to actually and while I'm talking, get out a white piece of paper or a lined piece of paper. And we're going to be actually doing this for your company. So this is important because when you're dealing with a lot of investors, you're like, who are they? What has actually been good for me to obtain? So if you're having all of these types on the right-hand sides, these are the types of investors. It could be an advisor. It could be actually an accelerator. Like Ocean is one of the accelerators. VCs, pitch competitions, warm introductions, angel investors, angel investment groups, syndicates, co-investors, other syndicates and platforms. So if you have received funding, or you've had some kind of next step with these types of investors, why don't you do is XY axis, saying the quality of investor, meaning that quality that's going to really be helpful to you in your company, versus the time investment by the founder, right? So in this way, you can really quickly, it takes about 30 seconds to a minute, to just write down where are some of these angels coming from for you in your business. And this is going to be like this. You're going to take the XY axis, and you're just going to fill in some of these bubbles. For instance, if I'm saying, hey, an accelerator is tons of time, right over here, tons of time for me and my team, but man, super high quality investors, because typically investors are aligned to the accelerator that fits their thesis. That's a really high quality investor. And the circles is it a lot of investors or just like one or two? So that is the volume of what that investor type is coming in on. So it's 4:15. I'll give you about a minute or so to kind of write it out on whatever piece of paper you have. And I'm going to put this back to this one to give you an example. You have about another 30 seconds to fill this out. Okay, I would love for one person quickly to just give me one example of where they placed their best quality investor and very quickly why. And if you can just, I don't know if I can see everybody's here. But let me know by raising your hand or something. But I want to also explain that the Brink SBDC is an accelerator type. We have our Lean Essential Sprint class. We have the E-Track. That is part of like a typical accelerator that supports you all the way along your startup journey. So you can also talk about that. Anybody is willing to share? Let's see if anybody. Okay, Harinath.
Thank you for taking me. I put my stuff in angel investors,
Okay,
given the nature of the technology that we developed and
okay,
the impact we believe it will have.
okay.
That's all you're looking for? Or
Yeah,
do you?
that's great. We have a lot to cover, but thank you. I just
Yeah.
love to hear from different people in the room. Sir Harinath, I love that. It's, you know, and you were spot on. You're like, look, based on where I am in my company, and I'm a tech company, people at this stage will really understand only the people that understand the technology, right? And that early stage is typically probably angel investors. That's awesome, right? I would, yeah, no, and how you can grow with this kind of understanding of where these different investors are in your view is that if you get more and more of those angels, you can actually increase that circle and say, actually, that was really good. And how did I get them? Did I get them through warm introduction? Did I get them through attending an event? And then replicate that, right? I was saying, okay, if it's coming through warm introductions, I need to get more of those. Or if it's coming through a conference or a co-investor, because I have had like 5 investors invest really early, all of that, go back and learn about how did I get those really high quality investors.
How many are you thinking? 1 to 2 or 5 to 6?
Of investors?
Angel investors.
Yeah, I would say that, I mean, I'm the kind of person that says you need to reach out to like 50 angel investors to get the 1 or 2. 50. I mean, but I'm saying like have that volume, even if it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do that? Oh, I'm scared. Or like, I don't even know that many people. It's more of like getting to that thought process of I need a lot to land the 2 or 3 that I need. And I have a slide on that. It's like really that funnel goes really tight down to the 2 or 3 that are going to invest in you. And it depends also on your minimum investment. If your minimum investment is 10,000 or 25,000 or 50, it's going to impact who's going to come in and how many you need to fill your round. So it all is my answer to a lot of these is it depends. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to go on now and saying that how do you can get prepared? There's some easy things and there's some harder things, right? So one thing that I love to say to everybody is this number 2. There's a lot of times that I've done due diligence as an investor and as a VC that their executive team LinkedIn profiles are not correct, or that it doesn't even show the company that I'm doing due diligence for. And I know that's like, some of you are like, I've done that. Like, I got it. Great. Right? The ones that don't, just polish. It's always worth a little polish of your executive team specifically, and maybe some of your mentors. If they want to put it on their LinkedIn, fine. But that is something that anybody who's going to do due diligence on you will be looking at that. And I will go through the investor persona over here. And of course, in a little bit, the pitch decks obviously are important. Executive summary is something that you can actually do it in Canva really easily if you want to make it look really pretty, but something that allows you to have a snapshot. A little trick and tactic is that if you have applied through Gust or AngelList or any kind of platform that has a profile per se that you have to fill out on those profiles, usually there's a little clickable link that says download my PDF, and that's typically an executive summary. So you can actually start from there. And if you need to bring it down to 1 page, you start from the downloadable one that sometimes is over almost 3 pages long, bring it down to a page. And then advisory board is something that is something to consider doing and creating for your investor journey, because those advisors can actually become your investors. So don't forget about them. And secondly, the investors that you want to bring into the cap table, they want to know that other people are there with them. So no matter what, if you can start doing like 1, 2, or 3 advisory board members, you don't have to give them equity, advisory, not board members, but advisory. You can really do that investor relations to bring them on board, right? Very mindfully and very aligned to your startup. So these are a little bit of the getting prepared, and we'll go over the deal room in a little bit. So investor persona, I'm going to dive into investor persona is really understanding who the investor is that you ideally want to have on your cap table. And cap table, I've said it a couple of times and I've not defined it. Capitalization table. So that is a table, typically an Excel sheet, as you start off with who has invested in like giving you how much money, invested how much money, how much equity do they have. You're just going to start that list, and then it gets a little bit complicated when it's like different equity stakes and all that, but that is a cap table. Okay. So the questions that you can ask yourself to create a persona is, which investors are values aligned to your company? Because those investors are going to be around you for a very long time. And the more that they are aligned to who you are, what's important to you is what we want. Who do you want to invest in your company? You should have a say in that. And what are you looking for? Are you trying to fill those gaps that we talked about at the very beginning? Or do you want somebody who understands the industry so well that they're going to leapfrog you into your scale mode, right? Whatever that is, you want to know exactly that investor that you would love to have on your cap table. Let's start there. And how you can do that is we go through this is that, for investors, do you invest in the horse or the jockey? I think everybody's going to say the same thing. You invest in the jockey, right? And that's important because you need to know the investor is investing in you, but you also have to have those investors. You want your jockey as well to help you, ride the horse into the sunset. So this is a typical investor persona. This is coming from, if anybody has done in marketing your persona for your customer persona, it's exactly the same thought process, right? So I would love for you, again, white piece of paper, write down a couple of these things, and we're going to be sharing this with you so you can really write it out very specifically and in the next time that you look at for homework. But for right now, I want about 2 more minutes for you to write down maybe the name of the investor. Sometimes it's a made up name, and maybe it's like Maria or whatever. Investor group is like Impact Awesome Group or whatever that is. Make it up so that you really can talk to that investor as you're building the deck, as you're building your executive summary, as you're building your deal room. What's your typical check size? What do you want? 10, 25, 50? What's your portfolio size and examples? Over their portfolio size, we want it to be small, maybe 10 to 20 portfolio companies, because they really care about each of their companies. And the examples would be maybe a fintech company that works B2B in banks, something like that. And what stage? Pre-seed, C to Series A. Then relevant behaviors is, what do they do? Are they involved in the investment landscape? Are they just individuals? Needs and goals. Do they want to increase wealth? Do they want to empower founders? Are they founder friendly? All of those things. The relative and motivations is, what is their incentive? Some of them are just impact. Some of them are, they want to invest in the future unicorns of the world. And I wanted to have a pause here. Not all startups want to be unicorns, and that's okay. And there's a lot of investors that don't want to invest in unicorns. They want to invest in great companies that have solid revenue, and they're actually think that they're going to get better portfolios because they're going slow and they care about each individual startup to thrive. So think about that. Demographics and psychographics are where they are, who they like. Do they like Starbucks coffee or do they like Pete's? I don't know. It's your thing, right? But and what industries, right? What are they looking at? And that's those and any other notes. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. It's 4:26. And we'll just reconvene and have somebody talk through at the 28 mark. So, and again, write this down on a white piece of paper. You have about 30 more seconds to just write down any of the pieces to this table. Okay, let's hear from somebody. If you can raise your hand in any of these examples, just to have one. Okay, go ahead, Amy. I was gonna ask you for feedback anyway, so go ahead, Amy.
Okay, so I said my person's name is Nassim. They
Okay.
write impact funds. They're looking at checks for 25K. They do about 15 companies a year so that they can make sure to really support educationally and mentor those companies. They do seed stage. They're socially and environmentally cautious, and they're really looking to expand educational opportunities globally to founders.
I love that. I know who you're thinking about. And I love, Amy, how direct you are. And it's interesting, like people in the audience or in the recording don't know, but she's talking about one VC that's very specific to, let's say, somebody that she really, really wants, and she knows that person. But do you hear when when Amy is talking about this one investor, that they're socially conscious, they're global, that will fit different types of investors too, not just that one that she's looking at. So that's why this persona is so cool, because you're like, this is a snapshot, but that actually fits about 100 different investors in different ways, but she's very targeted to who that investor is. And that's the beauty of this investor persona, so that you can build your list based on this persona. And that's what is next in this. Benton, I know I put you on here, but then this creates your investor persona action plan. And again, we will be sharing these slides with you, but I always try to make these tables super easy so that anybody can just put it on a white piece of paper. It's like, now you can say, okay, I'm naming Benton. Okay, who, what? He invests, he advises, he does introductions to partners, his network to customers. How can I get introduced? Well, network, warm introductions, STAC, or The Brink. He's actually right here. And then scoring them to say, okay, is it aligned to my persona, right? Is like, oh, wow, he's totally aligned. Number 9 out of 10, right? And then am I linked to this person? Oh, it's only a tier 1 connection. Okay, if they're a tier 3 connection, what do you think your next steps would be? Is to reach out to somebody who knows who he is. You see how this allows you to be like, I'm very targeted on my persona. This is who that person is. What do they like? What's the score? And what's my next stage is connecting with him. And if you do know him, if you're first tier, it's like getting a coffee meeting with Benton and saying, okay, now that I know that I'm aligned to your thesis, can we have a conversation? And he might say yes or no, right? If he says no, I'm not investing right now, then you're like, who can you introduce me to? Who actually fits what I'm doing, because now you know a little bit more of my company. Or he says, yes, I do want to explore a due diligence process. An investor's never going to tell you, yes, I'm going to invest in you in the first meeting. That's very rare. So they're going to be like, hey, I want to bring you into the due diligence process. It might be with an angel group. It might be by himself. It might be a bunch of different ways, but that is typically what happens. For me, as an individual angel, not with all the VC funds that I'm involved with, I take 7 times to meet an entrepreneur before I write them a check. And sometimes it's, you know what, let's meet on a weekly basis to get through this, like maybe their cap table is messed up. I'm like, hey, let's meet for the next 4 weeks. Let's clean up your cap table. Let's introduce you to some advisors that can come in and set a good like bench strength for you. And then we'll continue the due diligence. I want to see, do they show up? Will they do the homework? Will they come back every single week for 4 weeks? And will we be at a new milestone of, I've created some advisory board members. I have created a better cap table. Awesome. I know that they can execute on things. I'm more likely to invest in them. So that's how you kind of build that investor relations piece. Let me go back here. Next up is the ecosystem or pipeline. Is There's a process, a funnel, a timeline, communications, all that thing, because it's important. All of you right now on this call and anybody seeing this recording, you are part of an ecosystem, a startup ecosystem. Maybe you don't have one right in your city or your town. Find the one that's next to it, or there's tons of virtual ecosystems, but there are ecosystems out there that will help you. This is the startup fundraising funnel that I talked about at the very beginning. So again, that 100 that I talked about is that sending initial emails to 100 investors, VCs, all that. Maybe you apply online to whatever they have, if they have a Google form, or if they have anything else, 75. You want to then meet with investors. That's screening for them. You want to meet with them, coffee meetings. Sometimes they have angel access hours, that's golden seeds. Sometimes they have different types of things, that's about 50. Then you're going to come down to about 25 presenting to investors. You present to them, they're like, oh, you're not aligned, or yes, you are aligned. You're too early, not too late, but usually it's too early. Oh, you're right on track. Maybe you get to the next milestone and come back to me, right? Whatever that looks like. Then it's like due diligence. I say, okay, you do align to everything that we have. We're going to go through due diligence. Due diligence can take a week, which is very rare. Typically it's about a month. That's typical. Up to 3 months to 6 months. I would say 6 months is a little too long. So about a good sweet spot is about 1 to 3 months. So just know that as part of that due diligence process. Then it's usually like an investment committee, and that's typical VC. But investment committee, what I define that is like after the due diligence, even for me as an individual investor, I will go to my advisors or my other investors that I co-invest in, like Benton and other investors out there saying, hey, investment committee, quote unquote, can you look at my due diligence report? Am I thinking all the correct ways? You're an expert in this industry. Can I ask you some questions? And then we're like, okay, check, check, check. Good job. Then you're going to be given the term sheet. Look through some legal, close, and then wire. So you're starting off with 100 investors or investor types, and you're going to come down to 5 who wire you money. And that's just the pre-investment funnel. The post-investment funnel is asks saying, can you introduce me to some of your co-investors? Look, we need this support in this piece of my startup. Can you introduce me to those industry experts? Then advising and mentoring. Then it's quarterly reports, the communication that you have. And again, the base of it is tons of gratitude and abundance for building wealth together as entrepreneurs and investors. So hopefully that kind of tactically allows you to understand why it's like 100 to 5. It seems like when you first think about it, you're like, oh my gosh, that is so much. That is such a tight funnel, but it is. It is because there's reasons behind each step of the funnel. And then don't forget the post-investment, because the post-investment is about building trust in that ecosystem so that investor will invest the next round or introduce you to other investors in that same round. The typical timeline, and I already talked about this, is about a month to 3 months. Building your network is super, super important. And one way is kind of seeing what does your ecosystem look like, from human capital, relational capital, technology like universities and the brink, service providers, lawyers, accountants, marketers, influencers, the movers and shakers in media, and then of course, financial capital. It can be angel investors all the way to debt and grants. So non-dilutive and dilutive capital, and you are at the center trying to make a map out of it, and make that map for you, saying, do I have the resources in each one of these buckets to allow me to thrive? Oh, I do, great, let's move on. Or I need to find this relational capital, and each one of these can touch to that financial capital that you're looking forward to, but it's not all about financial capital. A little bit about investor influencers. Know that the investors, like I have Amy here, she's on the line here, and I have Benton here. And those influencers, you should know the investors that you're talking to, who can they introduce you to, right? Are they part of a VC fund? Are they part of an angel group? So that you're like, okay, this one influencer can really introduce me to everybody in that persona, investor persona that I'm looking for. Do you see how that really is very purposeful and very driven to go towards who these people are and who can help you along the way. And this is just an easy thing. Again, my thesis is more white piece of paper, get like 4 or 5 of the investors that you've talked to and build some hub and spoke pieces so that you understand, oh, that's why this person's important, or that person's not as important because they're not connected to all these funds. And I need to focus on this other investor who's connected in like 10 ways. Again, I say it's a focused marketing campaign. Do not use a shotgun approach. That never works. Build a target list, qualify that list, and get the warm introductions and focus on those investors that understand your business, that are aligned to you, and that you're really focused towards them. Build your target list. Top down is, again, we've already kind of talked about this, is that investor list is the 3 or more industries and making sure that you have a market map. The market map, I just wanted to show you that this is a market map, is that, you know, this is like the global femtech market map. And this is, I got this off of Google. So I'm not like making up anything here. I'm just, this is a femtech market map. But what I see whenever I see something like this, and what I'm looking for as maybe an entrepreneur looking for investors, is like, okay, well, if I'm in fertility and menstruation tracking, oh, who invested in Flow? Who invested in UVA? Oh, interesting. Then I would look it up and say, oh, that investor, I should go after that if you're like in the menstruation tracking world. Or, oh, there's some that have invested in 2 or 3 of these. Maybe one invested in Flow, the same VC invested in SmartBeat, and that same VC invested in something else. Then you're like, oh, that VC is looking at multiple different pieces of this market map to make sure that their portfolio is diverse and thriving. Does that make sense? Yeah. So yeah, the bottoms up approach is list all your existing investors and then go up. So the top down is market map and then build the list. And the bottoms up is who are your existing and build up from there, or who is your existing investors and ecosystem, build up. Okay, then what? Work the list, basically. I mean, it's as simple as that. And it's simple and hard, right? So tools to build your target list. There's all of these here: PitchBook, Crunchbase, Venture Deal, all of these. LinkedIn is my favorite. Twitter is free, Clubhouse is free. Some of the other ones are paid. So just be forewarned about that. And what's next is don't take it personally. It's a numbers game. It's a funnel. They're doing their own funnel as well. So both of you guys, both investors and founders, are building from funnels. And know that if it's a no from them, no problem, move on, right? It's not personal. You are an amazing founder, creating amazing technology and innovations that are going to impact the customers that you want to impact. Done. Like, that's awesome. Keep on that. And there's going to be investors that come alongside you to make sure that that's a reality. And we've gone through this a little bit with like the ecosystem, but I like to end this section with the 3 C's of capital. You want to think about your network capital, the connections of purpose, warm introductions, making sure your network is really solid in all the different functions. Then there's expertise capital, of saying, I need to find advisors and strategic experts, technical expertise to plug the holes. Financial capital is, okay, I need checks to be written. I need wire to be done. I need to go after non-dilutive, because that actually de-risks an investment, like an SBIR grant, NSF funding, NIH funding. If you get those in the door, then investors will be like, wow, you have not diluted. You have de-risked me. Therefore, I'm going to come in because my money is worth so much more, because you have this grant that's right against my check, and that's going to make you get to more milestones. Okay, let me go on. Coffee with investors. I'm going for okay, I have like 15 more minutes. Let me see. I'll go through this quickly, because we've gone through a little bit. To gain investment here. That's what it is. So why the coffee meeting? The coffee meeting can be done online or in person. Online is just like a Zoom call like this, that you have a conversation with an investor. Sometimes it's in person. The most important thing about the coffee meeting is that you are not pitching that investor. I have had many times that somebody's like, oh, here's my iPad with my pitch. And I'm like, I actually don't want to see the pitch. I want to know what drives you. What's your origin story? why are you doing this? And maybe I see 1 or 2 slides because you need to explain it to me, but I want to see, again, going back to, it takes me 7 times to say yes to an investment. One of those 7 times is a coffee meeting. Do I want to be pitched again for the 8th time? No. I want to know a little bit more about you, and especially because I'm an early stage investor, I want to know what makes you tick. So learning how to do a humble brag about your story, journey, and traction is super important. What do I mean about a humble brag? A humble brag is a statement that you can create saying, you know, I'm a serial entrepreneur or second-time founder, and what I learned the first time was patience. So now I know that, you know, this new technology that we're building is something that we're doing slowly but surely. We're seeking the right partners to actually go farther. Oh, interesting. That piques my curiosity and be like, well, what is about your technology? This is really cool. You see how that allows somebody to be like, okay, I'm sparkly. I'm an experienced entrepreneur and I know what I'm doing, but let me talk to you a little bit more about that humble brag. Okay, yeah, I'll say that, Amy. So, and then also the qualitative portion of the due diligence process. Those are the 2 things I just wanted to bring up. Is that due diligence process is typically like your cap table, how much you're making money, what's your business model, all the things, so much documentation. We'll go into the deal room in a little bit. But this is the qualitative, not the quantitative, the qualitative portion of what are your values, what makes you tick, who is your team? How do you talk about your team? The conversations that you have the investors and the follow-up afterwards. So that's something that is really important. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. We did have a question from Amy. Money movement slowed down early in the year. Has it picked up overall, or is it the same, still stale? Okay, still stalled. And then the other question is, I feel like I struggle with knowing when to bring the conversation to the topic of money. I could use some role play sessions to practice with experienced professionals. Yeah, so we can't do that right now in like 10 minutes, but thank you, Amy. We'll work on that. But what I would say with conversations of the topic of money is that you are probably not having a conversation with investors if you are not, let's say, interested in raising. You might not have a current round of fundraising open, but it's always a marathon. You always want to have these conversations with investors so that when you really truly need money, you can say, hey, 100 investors that I've talked to in 100 coffee meetings, I'm ready to go. I have raised a round. It's going to be a $1 million round with these things, whatever you have, like 20% discount, whatever that is, so that it's more of, there's less friction there, right? You want to say, this is what I'm about, and this is what I'm going to be closing based on all of these conversations that we've had. Conversely, Amy, I want to give another example, is that if you are raising and you have a certain amount of money that you have, you can have this coffee meeting. An investor is not going to take the coffee meeting if they're not at least interested in either a partnership, collaboration, warm intro, and check writing. So you want to be as bold as you can, saying, yeah, you know what? I am raising a round, or at the very end, you say, hey, I would love to carry on the conversation. My ask is, 1, I would love to be introduced to other investors like you, and 2, and I'm raising a round that's X, Y, and Z. We don't want ranges. We don't want to be like, well, maybe I'm raising money. It's like, no, I am raising this money. This is how much it is. And who can you introduce me to, or are you interested? It has to be really direct, but you can weave it into that ask at the end. Always, there's an ask always at the end. And when I don't hear an ask from an entrepreneur, I typically think they are not prepared. So think about the converse, right? It's like, you're like, oh, I'm scared about asking, blah, blah, blah. Well, actually, if you don't ask, it's the opposite. They think that you're not prepared. So just, I don't know what's going to like amp you up to get it done. But that's important. Okay. I'm going to move on to, getting them. You're going to get all these things. So the nuts and bolts, investor communication. I'm going to go to the, let's go down here to the deal room, making sure, because we've mentioned that a couple of times. Data room. Okay, so the data or deal room is the same thing. It's typically a set of folders in Dropbox or Google or in other platforms that do deal rooms. And the reason why this is important, and for any early stage company, I recommend you guys just starting this like distillation of all the stuff that you have on your drives into one drive that showcases your best selves. So it's a space for founders to communicate and inform investors, but just information about legal, financial, patents, all in one place so that you can share with potential investors. You do not want to share this with investors that are kind of wishy-washy. You just had a coffee meeting with somebody. Do not send them to data room. If they ask for it, if they're interested, then you share. But you should share your executive summary and your pitch deck before you ever share your data room. So let me go back here. Yes, so let me go back here. So this is the folder structure, very easy. And if you see this, it's basically like a business plan, right? So a business overview is typically the executive summary or some kind of summary. Then you have the team bios, which are just your resumes, all in one folder. Easy peasy. You can even take the LinkedIn profile that you have and just download the PDF. Contracts and agreements. This is where investors will see, like, if you have said in the pitch, I have a partnership with this medical group or this clinic, that agreement should actually be in that folder, because think about it, that they are detectives. They can't just take you at face value, even though they want to and they love you. They're going to have to, because they have a responsibility to themselves, a fiduciary responsibility to themselves, or if they're a GP, a general partner, and a VC, they have a fiduciary responsibility to their LPs to check that you have these agreements in place. So think about it not as like, oh my gosh, due diligence and that deal room, I'm scared. No, it's like, look, this is what we've done. This is amazing. Look, I have it all documented. And this is proof that what I say in my pitch deck makes sense. It's very easy. So number 4 is products and solutions. So anything that you have about your product, maybe a schematic, anything like that. Sales and marketing could be like your go-to-market strategy, could be like one slide that's a PDF, or like your marketing plan, whatever you have. Risk management is any risk that you think that you have, put a document in there. Can just be like a one pager if you want to. Financial information is pretty obvious. That sometimes is your cap table and your P&L or your financial projections. Legal and regulatory environmental is just all of your legal documents just go in there, right? And it's more of like a dumping ground there, but again, organize it, right? Users and customer research, if you've done that, or if you have any testimonials, you can put it in there. And of course, press and media at the very end. So you see how this is just a way to organize the top level of what you're doing in your business, not the little itty bitty things, but the top level of what you will need to put together for an investor. So there's 2 questions off the bat is, do we need to share the confidential information too? And the second question is, do you have these sub list of items that should go in these folders? So I keep it pretty high level here. The reason, Josh, thank you for your question about sub lists, is because it depends. If you're an early stage founder and you're talking to individual angels, if they see even just this structure, they're like, wow, right? You actually have everything together. And if there's sublists of sublists of sublists of like folders, and maybe you're talking about folders, or maybe you're talking about just what's in each one of them. And I do have a slide for each one of these. You want to keep it kind of tight, distilled, and have the most critical information there. And this is a way that they can have your data room up and going. Some angel groups have their own data room structure, and they will collect all the information and do it themselves. So you want to just have it really really tight and unorganized. Your question about Nataraj, the confidential information, that's why I said do not share it with investors that are just doing a coffee meeting with you. Somebody who's doing active due diligence and they need all of this information, you can keep everything that's non-confidential in here. And if they do want a confidential document, you can have that conversation later. It just depends on when you send this to investors. If you send them to investors earlier because you just want to showcase to them that you're organized, that's one strategy. The other strategy is wait until it's farther along and then send it to them with more confidential stuff. So it just depends on how you feel about sharing. Let me go back here before, great thing. Benton says, if you want to be a pro, name every document with both the number and description. So number 701 is a cap table. Number 702 is your financial projections. All of that, the more organized you are, the better. I know sometimes individual angels get overwhelmed. So business overview, I kind of give you the information of each folder, Josh. So thank you for bringing that up. Next is the team bios or resumes. A summary document of the team, board, and advisors is really nice so that you have a summary of what that is. And then you have all the resumes that are usually on 1 page, 2 page, 3 pages long. Contracts and agreements. These are the typical documents that are part of that contracts and agreements. Number 4 is products and solutions. If you have like product pictures or research or white papers, anything that you have there, you put that in there. Again, your comfort zone of confidentiality is up to you. Sales and marketing, you could do marketing data. This could be super long, but focus on distilling the information. Risk management could be, there could be a read me first document of like, hey, we have these risks that we know, and this is how we're mitigating them. And these are some documents that support that. You can do something like that. Financial information, we've kind of gone through that. User customer research, customer discovery document, information about users and downloads. Press and media is pretty obvious. The dues. So review before posting, right? And sending. You could watermark it. That's another option too. And then keep it updated. Sometimes I find that the deal rooms are like a year old because they were fundraising a year ago and then they just send it to me. I'm like, well, you need to polish it first. Remember the tenet that I said at the very beginning, be prepared. If you're fundraising, if you're going to send somebody something, have it polished, polish your LinkedIn, all of the things. Be careful with emails because sometimes somebody can just share it with somebody else. And that's not what you want. We hope investors are integrity driven. And if you can track it. You could do like a doc send or something like that. So that's one way of doing that. And the don'ts is do not share with all investors. Do not post everything to a data room. Do not post a trade secret to a data room. And do not post highly sensitive information. That is that then. And then we have the due diligence checklist. I have 5 minutes. And this is just a way to, there's some, I keep it really high level here. I think that I have 2. Do I have 2 of them or 1? No, just 1. So this is very high level. This was actually co-created with Amy Duncan here and some new fund investors that what is the really high level checklist. There's some checklists that are pages and pages and pages long. Some of them are just like 5 things that they're looking for. But again, this goes back to their thesis, what's important to them. But this is a typical checklist of due diligence. So, is the market big enough? Is a product has a strong value proposition? Does a marketing approach have tactics and sales funnels? And they're evaluating this based on what they're seeing on your pitch deck, what they've done with all of the conversations that you've had with them, with their notes and the deal room, right? And the conversations that going back and forth. But this is what they're kind of, check marking to say, does this actually align to what we want to invest in? Okay, perfect. So after this, I just want to make sure I'm going through example of pitch scoring is the typical scoring of a typical pitch deck and overall takeaways. And I'm going to get to your question before we finish, Obaid, is that think about the 6 tiers: investor list, advisor list, tier your lists so that and you can really be focused, be resourceful and realistic. Right? If you don't have enough time, don't send them something that's old. Polish it up, take the time to do it. The treasure is what's your risk? What's your risk tolerance? Who can bring in diverse money? Maybe somebody can help you write a grant. The talent, know about your team talent and be able to talk about it, not just in their resumes, but talk about it with through a coffee meeting. The tech is the second meeting, the alternative financing, all of the things that you can do to build. The tech could be like, I have like an automated follow-up email. And trust is the most valuable currency. So build slowly and mindfully, because it is a marathon. So all of these things are part of what the investor is looking at when they're investing you, not just, okay, that's great market, good TAM, good product, I'm in. It never happens that way. So I want to go after Obaid's your question. Could you provide a tip or strategy for obtaining warm introductions to investors within the fintech startup ecosystem? So I would take an approach of saying, okay, who are the people that you know in the fintech startup ecosystem? So if you don't know anybody, then I would go on LinkedIn and search up things, and maybe somebody's doing a panel, maybe somebody wrote an article. The ones that are the most active, let's say panel, article, postings about fintech, are typically the ones that are here to like share the beauty of this fintech ecosystem, right? So you want to go after them first, saying, hey, you know what? I loved your talk about blah, 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 or I heard your YouTube, blah, blah, blah. And can we have a meeting just to talk about the ecosystem? Or I would like your insights on it. Then that person is going to get excited about your company, and then they might warm introduce you to somebody else. Other way is, you see that ecosystem that we are going through is maybe you have a lawyer friend, or whoever is your lawyer, or another like marketing person that's in this arena. Maybe they can make warm introductions to investors that they know are in this world. So think about it as tiering who you know, and then if you do top-down approach, it's more of who's playing in the marketplace, right? Who's in fintech, and then saying, okay, how many investments have they made? And then you say, hey, I saw that you made an investment in X. Would love to know more about that investment, or, how are you growing your portfolio? Talk about them and then pitch. I get so many pitches on LinkedIn. It's like, I have a company that's going to make you a lot of money, and will you invest? No, delete, right? It's like, I can't do that. But if somebody's like, hey, I heard you do a TED Talk last week. I'm like, wow, you knew that? Okay, cool. Let's talk about it. Let's see what it's all about. So that's just my 2 cents. I'm repeating my question. How should one leverage SBIR awards to start for angel rounds? I'm so sorry I did not see your question. I'm so sorry. So the question is, how should one leverage SBIR awards to the startup for angel round? So for SBIR awards, or NSF, NIH awards, you can leverage it. Basically, the leverage is that you are getting non-dilutive financing for your company, right? And your company is seeking financing from angels, and that's dilutive funding. So if you can de-risk that investor with an SBIR grant, because you bring in $500,000 from SBIR, and then the other angel will come in, and a couple of angels, and will fill out your round of $1 million, but they know that you have this SBIR. So it's money, but it's also recognition. SBIR means that they have reviewed it. They have seen that your technology is good enough for them to give you a grant. For an investor like me that maybe not knows your industry, I want that validation, that external validation from SBIR to say, technology, we got it. We're going to invest in them, and you invest in them based on your angel perspective, right? So that it's like a 2-for-1 there. And I would say the last thing I wanted to do, Benton says non-dilutive is angel candy. Can you spell out what SBIR is? Somebody in the chat. SBIR is Small Business Innovation Research Grants. I think I said that right. But it's grants. NSF, National Science Foundation, or NIH, National Institute of Health grants are government grants that they have a very rigorous way of walking through the innovation. But my last thing about SBIR grants, I get this a lot, is what do I do between the time that I apply for SBIR and when I get SBIR? It might be a 6-month, 9-month period. So I always tell the founders that are pitching is that, like, put the logo of SBIR or NSF or whatever you're getting and say, I have applied for these. And then when you get them, you change the slide and say received an X amount, because, right, it's about preparation. right? And yes, thank you, Benton. Brink has a workshop for SBIR, but it's about preparation. If me as an angel investor sees you pitching to me and you've actually applied for an SBIR, I know you got your stuff together. You have a technology that's worth SBIR even looking at you. And even though you might not get it, you know, their odds are the odds. I know that you've prepared enough that you were able to submit. Wow. And then when you get it, you're like, whoa, I got it. This is great. Then as soon as you get it, you would email all of your investors saying, I got the SBIR, you know, wonderful. Are you in? Are you not out? Right. So are you in or out? So, yeah, so that's like a little bit of how you use it, when to use it, and all of that. So we are out of time. It's 5:03. So super excited to have you all here. I think that that's all I had here. Yeah. So this is just my contact information. You can contact me again. I'm one of the advisors at the Brink SBDC. So is Benton, who's been chatting it up. Thank you, Benton. Thank you so much. You're always my wing guy, and I'm your wing girl, right, all the time. Doing these sessions. And thank you, Amy. Amy is the director of the Brink SBDC, who brings together all of these wonderful workshops. And again, don't forget about the 10-minute, let me stop sharing here, the 10-minute pitch sessions that are coming up. Thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Yep. Bye.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Bye.